Hello, and welcome to the next episode of Afterglow, episode 17, checking out the first N64 game we've had in the podcast. Confession time, I did not have an N64 as a kid, but I did have at the time, girlfriend, now ex, that did have an N64 with one game, and I talked her into buying her second game for it. That game was Star Fox 64. So we're going to listen to the commercial for the game as well as a track from the first stage, and then we'll be back with my thoughts on Star Fox 64.
Star Fox 64 test subject results. Stage 1, Space Combat Mode. Stage 2, Multiple Interactive 3D Environments. Stage 3, Intra-Squadron Dogfighting. Stage 4, Sudden Jolt Rumble Pack Impact Control Sensor.
Introducing Star Fox 64 with Rumble Pack, only for Nintendo 64.
Conclusion, Stimulus Overload. Good game.
And welcome back. So, I was a big fan of Star Fox and the Super Nintendo whenever I was a kid. Really enjoyed it. We'll probably do an episode on that one later. Never got the N64 though, but the girl I was seeing, like I said in the intro, had one, and I talked her into getting a copy of this game. She was looking for another multiplayer game, and I knew it had the dogfighting mode. I didn't realize it was like a really small part of the game because, again, I'd only read a few reviews on it, but I remembered loving the Super Nintendo game. Like, man, multiplayer, and that sounds fun. And it was. Like, the dogfighting mode was a blast. But we got the game, and I literally sat there and I beat it the day that she ended up getting it. Funny thing, our version did not come with the Rumble Pack. I think it was like maybe a Greatest Hits version or something, but there was no Rumble Pack for our copy, which was fine. We didn't really need the Rumble Pack to enjoy the game. It would have enhanced it a little bit, but I played it later with Rumble. So that was really my only experience. And me and this girl were only together for like maybe half a year or so. So outside of that, I did not play Star Fox 64 again until the 3DS came out. And there was a port for the 3DS, and that game was like really, really cool. I loved the three-dimensional effect. It was early in the 3DS lifespan. And I really, really enjoyed the 3D effect. I know a lot of other people did not enjoy the 3D effect on the 3DS, but I thought it was really good. Before I got the 3DS, I attempted to emulate it, and there were some issues with the emulation that I wasn't a fan of. Now, modern day emulation for Star Fox 64 is fine. And the game runs pretty well perfectly on emulators these days. Um, Now, that being said, at first, whenever I started emulating it recently, I thought it still had a little bit of slowdown. But if you go back and play the original N64 version, that same slowdown is there. So it's not a problem with the emulator. It's just the way the game is, I suppose. But I had a blast with this game when I finally got in the 3DS. And there's like a bunch of different pathways you can take throughout. Like the Super Nintendo version, you have the easy way, the normal way, and then the difficult way. Whereas with this version, depending on how you do in the mission, determines what direction you go. And it's not a set pathway. You could start on a difficult path, like let's say you beat the hidden boss in Corneria. But then if you fail the next mission but still survive, which can happen in some missions, it'll knock you back down to an easier mission. At least that's the way it looks in my opinion. This game also introduced the Star Wolf Squadron, which I thought was a great touch for the Star Fox series to like have more or less enemies that were on your footing, rather than just going after a bunch of small targets throughout the mission and then one larger boss at the end. To have 4 fighter pilots that were on the same footing as you and your team was really fun. I claim they were on the same footing, but to be honest, I had difficulty beating Starwolf many, many times. Like, I felt like my wingmen were doing nothing, and I was literally trying to take on 4 people at once while they were more or less being cannon fodder. But still, that's a really memorable point of the game for me. I did kind of like the extra vehicles. There's like a submarine, and there's a tank that you can play as. I think it's like 1 or 2 stages each. But my favorite is still this being back behind the R-Wing. I do think it's a huge shame that they have not done very much with the Star Fox franchise since 64. Like, they keep retelling the Star Fox 64 mission whenever there's a sequel made. There was Star Fox Command on the DS, and like I said, I played it, and it kind of expanded on the lore a lot, but there are many, many endings to that game, and none of them really fit the Star Fox canon. I never played the one that came out for the Wii U. I did hear it was more or less another retelling of Star Fox 64, which it's a real shame that the game seems to always be protect Canaria and defeat Andros. Well, like they could do so much more with it. Like bring in the new baddie, have Andros discover another planet that has someone that can help him with his technological experiments. The best way, I feel at least, if they could have done a sequel, was the unreleased until the Super Nintendo Classic Star Fox 2, where you had a map of the system and you had to choose where you were going and intercept stuff from attacking the main planet Canaria. And I really like that concept, and I feel like if that were done in a next generation game, it would be a blast. But unfortunately, it looks like for now, Nintendo has forgotten about Star Fox. There's a lot of franchises that I feel they just have completely forgotten about. F-Zero being a big one. I hear a bunch of people being all like, oh, well, Mario Kart's so big they don't need F-Zero. No, 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 no. Like, Mario Kart is definitely like a competitive racer with weapons, whereas F-Zero is just like pure racing speed. Like, how fast can we take this? Another one that they are ignoring is Star Tropics, which hasn't seen an entry since the NES. I feel a modern role-playing game in the vein of Star Tropics would be awesome. But apparently, if you have the word Star in your name and you're owned by Nintendo, they ignore you these days. But I would love to see a new Star Fox game, and I'm sure eventually we'll get one. I just really hope they change the formula a little bit, not a whole lot, because there was that GameCube quote unquote Star Fox game that was absolute trash. But like I said, hopefully we'll get something and they tweak it like the unreleased until the classic Star Fox 2, where it's still a blast to play, but it's also a new and unique experience. But that's it for my rambling about Star Fox 64 for now. We're going to close this out with the closing credits for Star Fox, and hopefully you'll tune back in for the next episode of Afterglow. Thanks for listening.